I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. In today's What's for Dinner video, I'll be sharing with you what meals we had this past week. Our dinners were easy to make, budget friendly, and delicious. So if you'd like some weeknight meal ideas for your family, just keep watching. For dinner this first night, I made chicken cordon bleu. I used to make this all the time and I don't know why, but I've just stopped making it and it just sounded really, really good. I normally don't follow a recipe when I do this, but this time I did a couple little things differently, and for those things I did follow a recipe, so I'll link that down in the description box below. So to get started, I've got 2 chicken breasts here that I just pounded out until they were an even thickness, and then I seasoned both sides with salt and pepper. I've got some thinly sliced honey ham. You could really use whatever kind of ham you prefer, Virginia or Black Forest. Just make sure it's thin. And then normally I would use slices of Swiss cheese, but today I've got this thick cut Swiss and Gruyere mix that I got on sale, I don't know, a couple months ago at Kroger. It's been in my freezer, so I just pulled it out and thawed it. So I'm going to lay down a piece of the ham, sprinkle on some Swiss cheese, lay down another piece of ham, sprinkle on some more Swiss cheese. And then I rolled them up pretty tightly and secured them with some toothpicks. Now I've got the oven preheating to 375 degrees. Here I've got 3 dishes. In this first dish, I have some flour with just a little bit of salt and pepper. The second dish has an egg with just maybe a tablespoon or 2 of water. And then in the third dish, I have some plain breadcrumbs that I added a little bit of Parmesan cheese to. And I'm going to whisk the egg and the water together, stir up the breadcrumbs and Parmesan cheese, and stir up the flour with the salt and pepper, and then I'll dredge my chicken. So to dredge the chicken, I just took each little chicken packet, dipped it into the flour, kind of tapped off the excess, dipped it into the egg mixture, and then dipped it into the breadcrumb mixture. You want to make sure that the breadcrumbs cover the entire piece of chicken. And I forgot to mention this, but when I rolled up the chicken, I kind of did it like a burrito, if that makes sense, so that as much of the cheese mixture was covered as possible with the chicken. I hope that makes sense. You just want to kind of make like a little chicken pocket where the cheese and the ham are inside of the chicken completely encapsulated. And if you use the toothpicks, that'll really help you do it. So once I dredged the chicken, I laid them on a piece of parchment paper. I sprayed them with a little bit of cooking spray. That just helps the tops get golden brown. And then these are going to go into the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes. You want to cook this until the chicken is at least 165 degrees internal temperature and the breadcrumbs are golden. Now, usually when I make chicken cordon bleu, I stop there, but I found a recipe on Pinterest for like a Dijon sauce to go with this, and it just sounded delicious, so I thought I'd give it a try. And again, I'll have this recipe down in the description box below. This sauce was super easy. In this little saucepan here, I just have a bechamel sauce, just melted some butter, whisked in some flour, cooked the flour for maybe 30 seconds or so, then whisked in some milk, cooked that for about 3 minutes or so until the mixture started to get thick. At that point, I removed the saucepan from the stove. I'm going to add in some Dijon mustard, Parmesan cheese, a little thyme, and then season it to taste with salt and pepper. This is what it looked like when it was done. This was delicious. It was so good. When I make chicken cordon bleu in the future, I'll make this yummy sauce. All right, so to go along with this, I just did a simple salad. Chicken cordon bleu is super filling, and especially with that sauce, it's pretty rich. So just a simple green salad was the way to go. I've mentioned this before on my channel, but I recently fell in love with a salad at, they have restaurants, I think all over the country, at least. I know there's several here in Tennessee. It's called Boom Ba's, and it is delicious. It's so good. So I try to recreate it at home. I just have some spring mix, some cranberries, and then glazed pecans. I also have some honey goat cheese that I'm going to crumble up. And then I made a homemade balsamic vinaigrette. I didn't have any bottled on hand. I'll put the recipe that I used in the description box below. It's super easy. I just did olive oil, balsamic vinegar, a little touch of Dijon mustard, a little bit of honey, some salt and pepper, shook it up in a mason jar, and then that was it. All right, here is a picture of our plate. We have the chicken cordon bleu along with the salad. This was so incredibly delicious. The chicken cordon bleu was amazing, and I just love that salad. It's so good. So simple, but really yummy. For dinner the next night, I made homemade hibachi. I haven't made hibachi in forever. It's been a while, and we love it. It is so much cheaper to make it yourself at home instead of going out to eat. And it's not really hard at all. I mean, there is a little bit going on, so I like to set myself up for success as much as possible and get everything prepped ahead of time. Now, I've shared this before on my channel, but it's been a long time ago. I think it was one of the first videos that I did, so if you go back and watch it, be kind. I know it's not the best quality. But in there, I show you how I do it on a cast iron skillet. That's usually how I do it if I'm doing it inside. I do have a little Blackstone griddle though, or grill, and so I decided to do it out on the Blackstone tonight. So let me show you how I make this. So here's everything that I've got prepped. Now with hibachi, make it your own. Use whatever you and your family like. And like I said, I like to have everything prepped. It just makes it so much easier. So here in the back right corner, I've got some vegetables. I did some chopped onions, broccoli, zucchini, and mushrooms. Next, I've got some teriyaki. Use your favorite or make it homemade. I'm using the Sweet Baby Ray's. I've got some soy sauce. In this little squirt bottle, I have some vegetable oil. I've got salt and pepper. And then for the proteins, I am doing steak, chicken, and shrimp. I had all three of these in my freezer and I needed to use them up. So I just pulled them out, thawed them, and cut them into cubes. I've got a couple tablespoons of butter. And then for the fried rice, you always want to make fried rice with cold rice. So make it a few hours before. The day before is even better. I just cooked it up in the rice cooker. And then I've got a couple eggs that I'm going to cook with the fried rice, and then some peas and carrots. All right, I've got the grill heated up. I'm going to start out by cooking my vegetables. I'm going to add on a little bit of oil and then add my vegetables and just kind of spread those out and season them with salt and pepper. And a quick disclaimer, I am not at all in any way, shape, form, or fashion an expert hibachi chef or an expert at the Blackstone for that matter. I just try to recreate what I see when we go out to hibachi restaurants, and I'm still learning the Blackstone. So if you are a professional hibachi chef or grill master, don't judge me. All right, so on the right hand side of the grill, I'm going to add some oil, add my rice, and just kind of spread that out onto the grill. Now for the vegetables in this cup here, I just have a couple tablespoons of water that I'm going to add to the vegetables. Just kind of helps them steam. Now with the hibachi, you kind of want to keep things moving. So you'll see me constantly stirring my vegetables and stirring the rice. I'm going to add a little pat of butter to the vegetables and rice. Then I'm going to add some soy sauce. And like I said earlier, make this your own. If you want to add sesame oil or oyster sauce or whatever else to your fried rice, your vegetables, your meat, do it. Just go for it. So I'm going to add my peas and carrots to the rice, and then off to the side I added just a little bit of oil. I'm going to add my eggs and just kind of scramble those up. Once those are cooked, I will mix them in with my fried rice. Here you see me adding teriyaki sauce to the vegetables. I don't know what I was thinking. I normally don't add teriyaki sauce to my vegetables. I mean, they were fine. They weren't bad, but just normally I don't add the teriyaki sauce. I don't know what I was thinking when I did that. So once the rice and vegetables are done, I'm going to remove them from the grill, and then we'll start on the proteins. I'm going to start with my chicken because that takes the longest to cook. I'm adding a little oil to the hibachi. I'm going to add my chicken breast, season it with some salt and pepper, and then stir that around. Next, I will add some more oil to the grill, add my steak, again, season with salt and pepper. It's kind of the same thing on repeat. You basically add a little oil to the grill, add whatever it is you're cooking, whether the vegetables, meat, whatever, season it with salt and pepper, let it cook, and then we're going to add in some butter and then a little bit of soy sauce, as well as I am going to put teriyaki sauce on the chicken, steak, and shrimp. So once I've got the steak and chicken almost completely cooked, I'm going to add the shrimp. The shrimp do not take very long at all to cook, so that's why I wait until the chicken and steak are basically cooked before I add the shrimp. Once I add the teriyaki sauce, I cook everything for just a minute or two just to warm up that teriyaki sauce, and it'll thicken and coat everything really nicely. And then that's it. This will be ready for the proteins to come off of the grill. All right, let's talk yum yum sauce. Some restaurants that we've been to call this yum yum sauce. Some call it shrimp sauce, seafood sauce, pink sauce, white sauce, whatever you want to call it. It's flippin' delicious. We love it, not just with our shrimp, but with all of our meats and even on our rice. There is nothing at all wrong with the bottle that you get in the store, but homemade is so much better. You just have to trust me. It is delicious, and you probably already have everything on hand. It's super easy. The hardest part about this is just remembering to make it ahead of time. You really, really want to make this the night before if at all possible. If you can't do it the night before, do it a few hours in advance, but it really, really needs time to sit up. Or set up rather, not sit up. All right, in this bowl, I have melted butter. I'm adding mayonnaise, garlic powder, sugar, ketchup, paprika, a little bit of cayenne pepper, and don't worry, it's not hot. I mean, it does have the tiniest little bit of a kick, but it's not spicy. We've got some ketchup, and then I like to thin it out with just a couple tablespoons of water. I'm going to combine everything and then refrigerate it, like I said, overnight. Now, I've seen many different recipes for this. They vary, like instead of using ketchup, they'll use tomato paste. Just use whatever you and your family like. We just have used this recipe for years, and this is what we prefer. And here's the finished yum yum sauce along with the rice, vegetables, and meat. And here are the plates. This was incredibly delicious, so good. If you've never tried homemade hibachi, I highly recommend you give it a try. And like I said, you do not have to have a Blackstone grill to do this. You can do this inside on top of your stove in a cast iron skillet, a regular skillet. I've also done it like on the griddles, like you cook pancakes. I've done it that way before as well. Now, if you notice, I did make like a portion for 4 because we absolutely love leftover hibachi. So we had it for lunch, I think for the next day or 2. But that was dinner this night. So good. I had some flatbread pizza crust in my freezer that I needed to use up. I got it several months ago at Aldi. So I pulled those out and thawed them. I decided to make a caprese flatbread. So I've got some fresh mozzarella cheese, some grape tomatoes, olive oil, and then I'm using the Trader Joe's balsamic glaze. I'm going to make a side salad. This is very similar to the side salad that I made with the chicken cordon bleu, except instead of the goat cheese, I decided to use up some blue cheese crumbles. Now, this salad, by the way, is for my husband. I do not care for blue cheese at all. And then I'm going to slice up some of this apple. I've got my oven preheating to 425 degrees. I've laid my flatbreads on a baking sheet. I did cut off like maybe a ½ inch or so of the flatbread just so they'd fit better on the cookie sheet. I am going to drizzle this first one. I'm going to do this one for the caprese. I'm going to drizzle it with some olive oil. This is some olive oil that's already been infused with herbs. It's really yummy. I'm going to brush the olive oil all over the crust. This adds flavor, but it also helps the crust get a little crispy and brown around the edges. Next, I laid down some slices of the mozzarella cheese. I'm going to take those grape tomatoes, slice them in half, and add those. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of salt on top. I find tomatoes and mozzarella can be a little on the bland side, so I just added a little salt. That caprese flatbread is on the left. On the right-hand side, I had some things in my fridge that I needed to use up, namely some taco meat. It was left over from last week, the chicken tacos I made when my siblings were here. I also had some like taco seasoned cheese, and then I had some homemade ranch dressing. So I did like a chicken bacon ranch. Just laid down the ranch dressing on that flatbread crust, added some of the chicken, some bacon crumbles from Sam's Club, and then that shredded cheese. I'm going to place the flatbreads into the preheated oven, and I baked them for about 15 minutes or so. You just want to bake them until the crust is golden brown and your cheese is melted. And if you want, you can broil this for the last minute or 2 to get your cheese extra golden brown. After the caprese came out of the oven, I drizzled it with some of that balsamic glaze from Trader Joe's, and then I tore up some fresh basil from my little basil plant. And then for the chicken bacon ranch pizza, I just chopped up some green onions that I had and added those on top. All right, here are the plates. I was not super hungry this day, so I just had some carrots on the side of my pizza, and like I said, I had that salad for my husband. This was so incredibly yummy, that caprese especially. Oh, the balsamic and the fresh basil, so yummy. For dinner the next night, I didn't get a picture of our individual plates. We ate at different times, but we just had leftovers. We had some leftover hibachi, some of the leftover pizza. We had other leftovers in the fridge, so we just ate what we wanted and warmed it up, and that was dinner this night. The next day, my husband wasn't really feeling well and wasn't really in the mood for dinner, so I ordered takeout. I just did a pork salad, and it was delicious and easy, and I didn't have to cook or do dishes, so that was wonderful. And that was my dinner this night. For dinner the next night, I tried a new recipe for chicken tikka masala. I mentioned this in my grocery haul, but I know not everyone watches those. So I tried butter chicken for the first time a few months ago. I'd never had Indian food before, let alone make it. But I'd seen a recipe on Jess and the Boys for it, and it looked really easy. And so we tried it, and I liked it. But at the time, I mentioned that I wasn't really thrilled with the cinnamon taste in it. And here recently, someone commented on that video, and I apologize. I tried to find who it was, and I couldn't find who suggested it. But they suggested that I try chicken tikka masala because they said it was essentially the same thing as butter chicken, just without the cinnamon and those other spices. So I thought I'd give it a whirl, and this was delicious. We will definitely make this again. Whoever did suggest it, thank you, thank you, thank you. My husband and I both love this. All right, let me show you how to make this. And of course, I'll have the recipe linked in the description box below for you. Here are the ingredients we're going to need for the marinade for the chicken. We've got some ginger, Greek yogurt, some lemon juice, cumin, garam masala, salt, some minced garlic, and then the recipe said red chili powder, and then it said not cayenne. And I had no idea what it was talking about, so I just decided to use smoked paprika because the chicken tikka masala sauce called for smoked paprika. So it tasted just fine. So all I'm going to do is combine all of those ingredients and then add some chicken breast that I cut into chunks. I covered this and placed this into the refrigerator and allowed it to marinate overnight. If you only have a few hours, I'm sure that would be just as fine as well. All right, I've got my skillet over about medium-high heat. I'm going to add some oil, and then you want to do this in batches. We're going to add some of the chicken, space it out, and allow it to brown on all sides. And like I said, you do want to do this in batches. If you add all of your chicken at once, it'll steam instead of getting brown. So I'm just going to rotate the chicken, like I said, until it's brown on all sides. And as it gets brown, I will remove it to a bowl and set it to the side. You don't have to worry about cooking it all the way through at this point. We're going to worry about that later when we get the sauce done. Now, the recipe didn't say whether or not to wipe out the skillet at this point, but I decided to just leave it in. I figured it would be flavor. So I'm going to add in my butter. I did turn the skillet down, by the way. I turned it down to about medium heat. I've added the butter. I'm going to add in some diced onion, and I cooked those for maybe about 3 minutes or so until the onions started to get soft. Once they were soft, I'm going to add in my ginger and minced garlic and cook that for about 30 seconds. Next, I'm adding in the brown sugar, coriander, cumin, paprika, garam masala, and salt. And I'm going to cook that for about 15 seconds or so while stirring it. You just want to cook this until it starts to become fragrant. Next, I'm going to add in my tomato sauce, give that a stir, and then I'm going to simmer that for about 5 minutes or so. And you want to stir it every once in a while. Now, this recipe was really easy and it was quick. It, like, start to finish, I would say not even 30 minutes. So once I've simmered that tomato sauce, I'm going to add in my cream, stir that until it's combined really well, and then I'm going to add the chicken as well as the juices back in. But before I added that chicken, I wanted to give the sauce a taste. I felt like it needed just a little bit of salt, so I went ahead and added that. So I've added the chicken and juices back in. I'm going to give that a stir, and then you want to cook this, simmer it for about 8 to 10 minutes until the chicken is at least 165 degrees internal temperature. And I did forget to mention, instead of chicken breast, if you want, you can use chicken thighs in this. That would be really yummy. All right, here is what it looked like when it was done. And if you do need to add just a little bit of water to thin it out, you can, of course, do that. In this saucepan, I've got some basmati rice. All I did was measure out my rice. I do a 2-to-1 ratio. So I measured out 1.5 cups of rice, put it in a fine sieve, and ran cold water over it until the water ran clear off of the rice. Placed it into the saucepan, added 3 cups of water because I did 1.5 cups of rice, and I added about 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Stirred it, brought it to a boil, and then covered it with a lid, reduced it to a simmer, and cooked it for about 20 minutes. Do not take the lid off. After 20 minutes, turn the heat off, set it to the side of the stove, and allow it to sit for about 5 minutes, and then you can remove the lid and fluff it with a fork. So light and fluffy, and it is delicious. So good. I love basmati rice. Here are the finished plates. So I laid down some of the rice, added the chicken tikka masala, garnished it with some chopped cilantro, and then the naan bread. I just used the mini naan breads and warmed them up in the toaster, and this was delicious. So good. I highly recommend you all give this recipe a try, especially if you're someone who is like me and hasn't really eaten a lot of Indian food or is new to Indian food. I feel like this is a great introduction to it. This was delicious. For the last dinner in this week's video, I had some things in my freezer, pantry, and fridge that I wanted to use up, so I decided to do burgers and pasta salad. All right, here's how I'm going to put the pasta salad together. So I have this little Suddenly Salad pasta kit. This is the ranch and bacon. I like to get these at the Dollar Tree because they're smaller sizes. It's perfect for just my husband and I. I just cooked this up according to the package instructions. So I boiled the noodles, drained them, and then added them to a bowl with, now I use a little bit less mayonnaise than what the box says. I think the box says to use like 1/3 of a cup and I use 1/4 cup. And then the seasoning packet, I stirred that together really well. And then as you can see here, I have a little piece of tomato that I need to use up, so I'm going to chop that up. I'm going to chop up some of this cucumber. I've got some of these cheese cubes that I need to use up, so I'm going to chop some of those up, and then I decided to add some of the bacon crumbles from Sam's Club as well. Once I got everything stirred up, I covered this and placed this into the refrigerator until I was ready for it for dinner. And with these little salad kits, add whatever you like. You can add different cheeses, add different vegetables. Definitely, bulk them up, make them your own. All right, so for the burgers, I have this package of brisket hamburgers. I got these a couple months or so ago at Food Lion. I had put them into my freezer, and I'm trying to work through my freezer, so I pulled them out and thawed them. And I wanted to do kind of a little more fancy burger than what I normally do. So I'm going to cook up a couple slices of bacon. I've got some sliced cheddar cheese. As you can see here, I've got about 1/2 of an onion. I'm going to cut them into thin slivers and grill them up. I've got 2 leftover brioche buns that I need to use up, so I'm going to butter those and grill those as well. And then for the seasonings for the burgers, I've talked about this Kinder's Buttery Steakhouse seasoning. It is so delicious. I've fallen in love with it. And so I'm going to use that, and I decided to also try out the Kinder's Steak seasoning. All right, I'm going to season both sides of the hamburgers, and then I'll show you how I get this cooked up. All right, so here on the Blackstone, on the left-hand side, I've got those slivered onions. I just cooked those with a tiny little pat of butter, a little bit of salt, and some of the Kinder's Buttery Steakhouse seasoning. And then I cooked up the bacon. Now, once the onions were done, I removed them and I turned off the Blackstone grill on that side. I turned that burner off and I placed my buttered brioche rolls on that side after it had cooled down for just a little bit. I found, at least for me personally, on the Blackstone, bread toasts super quick, especially brioche buns. So I've learned to turn the heat off, and after it cools for just like a minute, toast up the bread and it works perfectly. And while the bread was toasting, I just cooked those hamburger patties. Once they were cooked to our liking, I topped them with some of that sliced cheddar cheese. And then while I was getting the condiments out for our burgers, I saw that we still had some of the blue cheese crumbles left over. And so I decided to add some of those to my husband's burger. Again, not a blue cheese fan, but he loved it. Here are the plates, so we each have some of the pasta salad, and then for my husband's burger, he has mayonnaise, lettuce, tomato, of course the burger with the cheese and the blue cheese, the bacon, the grilled onions, and then ketchup, mustard, and relish. Me, I like my burgers and sandwiches a little more on the simple side, so I have just a tiny little bit of mayonnaise, some ketchup, mustard, tomato, and then the burger with the cheese, the bacon, and the onions. Y'all, these burgers were delicious. They were so good. The grilled onions, the bacon, and those brisket burgers were so juicy and flavorful, so incredibly delicious. We had leftovers and we'll eat them tomorrow for lunch. I cannot wait. All right, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this gave you some dinner inspiration. If you liked this video, please hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.